You want one more?
Yeah,
more on what, beef?
You missed the first beef, actually, completely.
What do you mean, missed it?
You're emphasizing prairie fed.
But you can't emphasize beef. That's like his wanting me to emphasize in before July. Come on, fellas, you're losing your heads. I wouldn't direct any living actor like this in Shakespeare. Well, you do this. It's impossible.
Orson, you did 6 last year, and by far and away the best, and I know the reason.
The right reading for this is the one I'm giving it.
At the moment.
I spent 20 times more for you people than any other commercial I've ever made. You are such pests. Now, what is it you want?
No, I think...
In your depths of your ignorance, what is it you want? Whatever it is you want, I can't deliver because I just don't see it.
That was absolutely fine. It really was.
It isn't worth it. No money is worth it.
Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm not going to pod with you until you stop screaming.
No human being should be allowed to work like this.
Oh, that's terrible. I quit.
No, and your friend there, it's too much direction. Too many people directing.
I'm on the, you know how we always like to laugh at each other, like, oh, we're going to get you on the show after you're drunk or after your surgery or after your whatever. Well, I did my second shingle shot today, and if I had not set my alarm, I would still be sleeping. You are interested. So I will probably go to bed, wake up tomorrow and go, oh, did we pod? I dreamt I did. Which is why yesterday I spent a lot of time going through our subject for the week, which is previews. Because, I love a good previews.
Now, for me, there are certain things that always make me laugh. And one of those things is the Orson Welles outtakes from his time doing commercials. Now, if you were in radio or knew people in radio, whatever, these things circulated around. I know that KQ here in the Twin Cities played them. Howard Stern's played them. I've heard them all over the place. There's the Dead Dog Rant by Casey Kasem. There's William Shatner when he was recording for the Star Trek animated series, arguing over the pronunciation of sabotage. No, you pronounce it sabotage. I pronounce it sabotage. But with Orson Welles, it's the Paul Masson wine commercials where he was utterly hammered. And then the Frozen Pea commercial where he argued with the voiceover director for 5 minutes. And one of my friends, Tommy, he has the show Frankenstein Minute, which we've talked about. Tommy's been on a time or two. He helped us when we discussed how the Fantastic Four movie from 1994 was the greatest superhero movie ever made.
Best movie ever.
But every so often, he'll just say, the French champagne, which is how Orson Welles so drunkenly started one of the commercials. And we just can't stop laughing about it. And the reason it came up is I was watching Turner Classic Movies, and they had Peter Bogdanovich's last movie, which is a tribute to Buster Keaton. But whenever somebody interviewed Peter Bogdanovich when he was alive, he would go on and on and on about his friendship with Orson Welles. And it's funny how in the interview, they're talking about Buster Keaton, and he, of course, has to crowbar in, well, Orson loved Buster. Absolutely loved Buster. Hated Charlie Chaplin, but loved Buster Keaton. And of course, that made me go and watch the Parmesan commercial where Orson Welles was just hammered. So if you ever want to laugh at somebody who probably the greatest filmmaker ever, the history of mankind, just put Orson Welles wine commercial into the fire-breathing Google machine. And when you see Orson Welles original takes for Orson Welles wine commercial, it's only 1 minute and 20 seconds. He's completely hammered, and all 3 shots he screws it up terribly, and it is amazingly funny. Every time I watch it, I can't help but laugh uncontrollably. It's 1 minute 20 seconds long, and today I've seen it I don't know how many times. Laugh for 5 minutes. 5 minutes straight. Just could not stop laughing. Now, Tommy on his podcast, whenever he gets the chance, he will sneak in the French champagne. But that's not what we're here to talk about. And Joe has fallen asleep.
So this is what it's like to be old.
So we're going to go through Previews, which is the monthly magazine that tells us what comics are coming out 2 months from now.
Interactive. So grab your copy, number 405, June 22. I will give out a mini freak because when I got my box day, my Previews wasn't in it. What the F, Discount Comic Book Service? Really? They were been out for 2 friggin' weeks, and I didn't get mine. I fortunately was able to nab one over at the source. So thank you guys at the source.
Cover number 1 is for Star Wars Hyperspace Stories. Dark Horse has recaptured the license for the all-ages Star Wars comics.
Pew, pew.
On the back is an image book by Tom King called Love Everlasting, which looks like a romance comic, but is really a horror comic.
Pew, pew.
And on the spine is a comic that I absolutely love the first miniseries of, Gun Honey from Titan. It is through Hard Case Crime.
You know, I got that in my Previews because I should say my box day, because I ordered a special set from Titan of all the photo covers, but I haven't read it yet. And this is something that I personally dislike because they're already soliciting for the next series, and I haven't even read the previous one. So I'm kind of like, well, do I buy it and hope that I like the first one, or do I just skip it and then hope they'll do a set of them later, or wait for the trade?
You need to power through and read it now.
Oh yeah, I'm going to power through it. Most I'm going to power through is another nap. All right, so grab your Previews. What's kind of cool in the Previews, of course, is it's a lot more than just the catalog of what's coming out. They've got interviews throughout, which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, if you do get a chance, pick one up and just take a quick peek at it. A lot of different things going on. Like speaking of Titan Comics, Gun Honey, on page 25, there's an interview with Charles Ardai.
Yep, Ardai.
And they show the covers to his various books coming up. There's the photo cover I'll probably get. You know, you get things like that throughout. And of course, you get copious ads and how to use Previews. What we do is we go through, grab your Previews and come along with us. And we pretty much do it in order. So the first one up will be Image. First thing I have on Image is their first book right there on page 32, The Last Shadowhawk #1 30th Anniversary Special One-Shot. Oodles of people, oodles of variant covers celebrating the 30th anniversary of Shadowhawk. Usually I would pass, although the cover F looks kind of interesting because it's a collage of all the issues of Shadowhawk. The only one I'm getting is cover B because it has Savage Dragon on it. And it's drawn by Jim Valentino, Philip Tan, and Brian Haberlin after Liefeld, because I like Savage Dragon. Shadowhawk was never a character that appealed to me. I bought it way back in the day just because I bought all the Image stuff. I also had a shop at the time, so it was easy just to get along with the hype. But it was always questionable because his whole gimmick was he broke the back of villains rather than killing them or arresting them. And of course, somebody pointed out, well, that's really stupid because that makes them even a worse burden on society, because now you got to deal with assuming you didn't paralyze them, a broken back criminal. So, but in this one, in the not too distant future, the world will be just as it is today, only worse. Evil has permeated the very fabric of society, from the halls of government to darkened alleyways. I'm sorry, I inflected that wrong. I quit. I'm leaving. I'll take some of the peas with me. No. Evil has permeated the very fabric of society, from the halls of government to the darkened alleyways. While heroes who once defended the downtrodden fail them now, who will be the last Shadowhawk? So you got oodles of covers. Also, on the following page, you have a number 1 3D anniversary special one shot if you're into the 3D-ism. So that's the first thing I'm going to point out. Cory, what do you got for the troopers at home?
Well, the first thing I find really odd, Shadowhawk was the character that Jim Valentino brought to Image. Valentino has not written or drawn a comic in a while, and he's not drawing this. He's doing some of the special covers. I would think if he's going to do the 30th anniversary, he would be involved in it. I thought that was just odd. But if you turn the page to page 36, Love Everlasting #1, written by Tom King, drawn by Elsa Chartier. Tom King is one of my favorite writers. He, at Marvel, worked on The Vision, then over at DC. He's done Batman and Mr. Miracle and Strange Adventures and Rorschach, and now he's doing a creator-owned book. I believe this is his first creator-owned book. It is drawn like a romance comic, but it is a horror comic. You get 3 pages so that you can see that the art style is a lot like Darwin Cook. It's Tom King. I'm going to buy it. I trust him implicitly.
Yeah, I'm on board with this one as well, which isn't fair because I wanted to talk about it. Instead, I'm going to point you to page 52, another remastered edition, Brigade #1. I just pointed out, in case you're into the 30th anniversary fun, it's the issue that started it all. I found Brigade, when it came out, fairly unforgettable. But I pointed out because some of you may have fond memories of it.
And for that, we're very sorry.
We're sorry.
But on the next page,
oh yes,
page 53 is Shirtless Bear Fighter 2.
Woohoo!
Shirtless Bear Fighter #1 was just pure comic fun. And this one is a sequel, same creative team. What do you need to know? It's Shirtless Bear Fighter. What's the story about? He's a guy without a shirt who fights bears. That's all you need to know. It's funny, it's action, it's over-the-top violent silliness. If you haven't read the first one, buy the trade paperback of the first one. It's just too much fun. Too much fun.
I'm going to pop back to page 50 because I passed one. Golden Rage #1. It's a 5-issue series. Chrissy Williams, Laura Knight. In a world where older women who have been deemed useless to society are abandoned on an island, Golden Rage documents their golden years of making friends, baking desserts, and fighting to the death. I don't know what it is that got to me about that. 3 pages of reduced art, or 4 pages of reduced art. I figured for a miniseries, that actually sounds kind of interesting. So I will give you my my moolah for that. They always put a comparison on the bottom. They say Battle Royal meets the Golden Girls, but with less cheesecake and more right hook swinging.
If you go to page 55,
Yes.
the comic Die is getting a hardcover that reprints the entire thing. It's written by Kieran Gillen, drawn by Stephanie Hans. This is in the 90s, 6 teenagers disappeared into a fantasy role-playing game. Only 5 returned. 30 years later, these broken adults are dragged back to discover the game isn't finished with them yet. This is... A lot of people have done stories about gamers being pulled into the world they're playing. I think the most famous one was Guardians of the Flame, which was a book series in the 80s. But this is Kieran Gillen takes simple ideas and then multiplies them out by making the characters feel real and having tons of reveals along the way. Absolutely adored this comic, and having it in a nice big hardcover to put on a shelf and reread over and over. This is such a great book. If you haven't read it yet, do yourself a favor, pick up the $1 first issue, and you'll see why we love it so much.
Yeah, I bailed after the first 6 issues because I knew I was going to want to keep this somehow, and I thought I was going to pick it up and trade. But this is even better because I like hardcovers. My wife doesn't because they're all over the house, but across from it, page 54, I don't recall if I've ever picked this title up before. 20XX Transport. I guess if I'm saying it right, 20XX was a trade paperback series. But what was interesting, Jonathan Luna debuted this on social media where his audience had the ability to vote and change the course of the story. From the futuristic yet grounded world of 20XX, a teenage boy with illegal telekinetic abilities in Anchorage, Alaska, tries to save his classmates on a school bus from a group of hijackers. Maybe a little too controversial for today, but they planned this out 6-7 months ago. So I thought that was kind of interesting because I wasn't aware he was doing that online. So it'd be kind of neat to see how that ends up.
Let's see. I do want to point out that they're on page 65 is what they're highlighting, and it's let's hit the books. Summer is ending, and there's no better time to catch up on reading some of the best comics and graphic novels about school. But summer is ending? Summer is ending? Summer hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, but remember, we're 2 months in the future here.
Still, it's depressing.
It is. We need a longer summer and a smaller other season. I guess we're getting that, though.
Although, I got to be honest, I'm Minnesotan, so we talk weather. I don't mind the fact that the high has barely been 75 for the past week.
It is nice, especially after sweating through a few 80s. You can keep it, Florida.
But for Image, that is the last of the new stuff.
On that page 65, are there any books there that you have read or that you would recommend?
I would recommend Deadly Class, Morning Glories, Bully Wars. I Kill Giants is one of the greatest comics I have ever read in my life.
I've read Oddly Normal. He's actually, I believe, in town. So that was kind of fun. Burnouts was good. Kingsman, The Secret Service.
Yep, Kingsman's the other one I was going to point out.
The other ones I have not read, so I may pick up. I probably have it in a dollar book if it's available in a dollar book because I've been picking them all up. So I will have to check them out. I think I have They're Not Like Us as well. Just a lot of these are in the pile to be read. So I'll get caught up eventually.
Maybe. Possibly.
Never.
Yeah, never. Now, next they have is a Boom. Because remember, IDW, they have another distributor, so they got shoved in the back. Marvel has another distributor, and they have their own little booklet. DC has another distributor, so they have their own little booklet. So, Boom!
Boom! Let's see, right away, page 90. I'm Still Alive. From the best-selling author of Gomera, Roberto Chaviano. He is a world-renowned Italian journalist who put pen to paper at age 26 to change laws, expose widespread corruption, put his own life at risk, and save countless others. His book, I mentioned before, Gomorrah, is a groundbreaking international bestseller, exposing the inner workings of the Italian mafia, which, as you can imagine, placed him under a direct threat which necessitated a 24-hour police protection to this day. And here, for the first time in an original graphic novel, he's joined by award-winning cartoonist Afa Anuka in sharing his deepest thoughts and experiences of a life in Naples where he witnessed the power and violence of the mafia firsthand. So I call these slice of life novels things, if I'm lucky, and as far as I know, Cory has no connection to the mafia, that I will never know. So I find it fascinating to see people when they share their life stories like this.
There is nothing in Boom that jumped out at me, but I do want to point out, if you have a child who loved the Goosebumps books or is reading the Goosebumps books or otherwise likes R.L. Stine, they do have a box set of the R.L. Stine Just Beyond books 1 through 4. It looks like they're going to be a Disney Plus series, or it already is a Disney Plus series. I got to admit, I didn't read Goosebumps because I was not a child. I do remember Jovial Bob Stein from back in the 70s. And his Man-Thing story at Marvel, one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever read in my life. And the editor who allowed that to be done should be taken out and smacked with the wet fish.
Yes.
But if you like R.L. Stine, there it is.
Similar vein, I'll point out on page 92, if you're into the Wind saga, there's a new epic volume from the Eisner Award-winning James Tynion IV and artist Michael Dialnaz. I should just quit the names. I'm probably really butchering them. But tons of variant covers, 5-issue series. And then, of course, on page 104, for you Firefly fans, there's a 20th anniversary special. And across from it's a trade paperback collecting the all-new Firefly 1 through 4. And there you have it. Next up, Dark Horse. We've already mentioned the Star Wars All Ages series. The first one, of course, Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, 12-issue, I guess we call them maxi series, page of art, so you can decide whether it's for you or not. When members of a Republic mission led by Senator Padme Amidala are abducted by ruthless separatist General Grievous, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi jump to the rescue, but the operation goes awry. The Jedi find themselves cut off and surrounded by army battle droids. Danger and deception at the height of the Clone Wars. So there you go. You get to jump on that. And on the next page, Tales from the Rancor Pit. 3 Tales of Terror from the Perilous Palace of Jabba the Hutt.
On the next page, 121, is a new series by Patton Oswalt. That's right, the comedian, Patton Oswalt. It's hard out there for a supervillain. Not the world conquerors, chaos engines, or arch nemesis, but the little guys. The ones who put on uniforms, knock over jewelry stores, and get tied to poles. And things are about to get worse. The psychotic Stickman has murdered Kid Dusk, sidekick to Twilight City's premier crime fighter, the Insomniac. The Insomniac's teammates are tearing Twilight apart, turning it into a police state, desperate to capture Stickman and stop the Insomniac from crossing that final line in which he may never come back from. Caught in the middle are the small-time C-list villains, finding it impossible to walk down the street without being harassed by these heroes. With a bounty on Stickman's head, former villain Playtime decides to assemble a ragtag team of villains to take down the Stickman and kill him themselves. It's Patton Oswalt, Jordan Bloom. I like Patton Oswalt. His stories, He's done comics here and there, and they've all been interesting and they've all been fun. I will pick this up as a trade paperback. It's 4-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
Joe?
I will point out one thing that I disliked about this. That's a hell of a description. If you can't explain it to me like in a paragraph, I mean, I feel like I basically just read the synopsis of the whole series. So not good. Let's sharpen it up there, Dark Horse. It is nice because the next couple pages you get a chance to take a peek at some of the art. I jump up to page 133. Let's see if I can say this right. Confabulation, an anecdotal autobiography of Dave Gibbons, this is a comprehensive, in-depth look on a personal journey through the eyes of one of the world's most famous comic creators. Presented as an alphabetically chaptered memoirs, these extensive anecdotes cover a legendary life in comics, from working on Doctor Who and meeting Tom Baker to being inducted into the Eisner Hall of Fame. Gibbons also discusses First Time Anywhere, the reasons why he and fellow Watchmen co-creator, he who shall not be named, no, oh wait, that's only Marvel, right? Okay, Alan Moore no longer speak. Oh,
does anyone still speak to Alan Moore who ever worked with them?
I'm not even sure.
I'm pretty sure that everybody who's ever worked with him at some point or another, Alan Moore no longer talks to.
Yeah. This actually really interesting. I will be very, very upset with you, Dark Horse, if next month you offered a signed version, because I would be all over that faster than Oprah eats Spam Lamb. So, but yeah, this one is definitely one that I have down on my list here.
If you go back a few pages, page 127, BRPD Omnibus Volume 2. This is Mike Mignola's Hellboy spinoff. The BRPD, they're the ones who Hellboy works with, collecting Born Again, Revival, The Dead, War on Frogs, and The Black Flame. I like the Dark Horse omnibuses. They're nice 400 to 500 page books, reprinting about between 3 and 5 trade paperbacks, depending on their size, for $30. Always in color. Also want to point out on page 134, the trade paperback of Cover, which was the Brian Michael Bendis David Mack series about a comic artist who gets recruited by a spy organization because comic artists go all over the world to conventions. So he's a comic artist who's also a spy. And you know that Bendis thought this up as he was traveling to all these conventions going, what if?
What's funny is I remember WWE doing a novel of this similar idea, that because WWE stars went all over the world. So it could work. I'm torn on this one because when I originally picked this up, I believe it was DC that did it, wasn't it?
Yep. It was part of his DC creator-owned stuff.
And for some reason, I'm only missing 2 out of the 6 issues. So I've got to decide, do I want to keep hunting for the issues, or do I just want to give up and buy the trade paperback? This is like we've talked about before. It doesn't have to be the hottest book out there in order for issues to be hard to come by. So on the next page, 135, one of the first graphic novels I'll be talking about, Organisms from an Ancient Cosmos. S. Craig Zalier. It's a supernatural sci-fi graphic novel written and illustrated by Zalier, the award-winning film director of Bone Tomahawk, Raw Cell on Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete. An alien spacecraft the size of a city materializes over the Pacific Ocean. The nations of the world jointly engage this dynamic and incommunicative visitor with force. This battle results in large-scale destructions on both sides, but it does not answer any of the questions that will haunt humanity. What are these utterly inhuman creatures? Where did they come from, and why? Well, why did they choose our planet? More importantly, are more forces on the way? So Just sounds interesting. Again, it's an original graphic novel published as an oversized hardcover, a story, a haunting odyssey that you will not want to miss. It gives you a page of the art style so you can decide for yourself whether this is something you would want to buy.
Now, Joe, have you gotten all caught up on Stranger Tales Season 4 yet?
Well, it's on my geeking, but I'm not caught up. We're 4 episodes in.
Well, if you've been buying the comics, you probably are going to kick yourself, because this has, on page 138, Stranger Things Omnibus Volume 1, which reprints Stranger Things, The Other Side, Stranger Things 6, Into the Fire, and Science Camp, and then Stranger Things Omnibus After School Adventures, which reprints Zombie Boys, The Bully, and Erica the Great. So you could get caught up on all of the Dark Horse Stranger Things graphic novels in 2 really nice packages.
Oh, yeah. Let's see, on page 136 is another graphic novel, 40 Seconds trade paperback. Jeremy Hahn, Christopher Mitten, a science fiction fantasy adventure about the brave team of science explorers traveling through a series of alien gateways to answer a distress call a galaxy away. They find themselves jumping across the universe through strange and beautiful landscapes, only to be hunted by a vast, inexplicable, unstoppable, and dangerous horde. Amazing truths lie at the final gate, if they can make it there. Originally a Comixology original series, and here you go. Now you can have it like me in your grubby little hands. Wash your hands first. It's a nice package.
On page 143, a reprint I never thought I would ever see.
Oh, yes.
The Lonely War of Captain Willie Schultz, which is written by Will Franz, drawn by Sam Glasman. They're going to get a special cover, but they do not have the artist listed yet, so it's TBD. This is a hardcover. This Lonely War of Captain Willie Schultz was originally serialized in the comic book Fightin' Army in the 1960s. It was a series written by 16-year-old Will Franz and illustrated by well-seasoned comic book creator and World War II veteran Sam Glasman. The entire story arc collected here and finally finished is one of the most dramatic, moving, and controversial comic book stories ever told. An American soldier of German heritage finds himself on the wrong side of World War II in this sweeping epic. This war story is at its heart an anti-war story and a story about universal human nature, about the hellhole of war. This was published by Carlton, and Carlton, let's put it this way, Carlton didn't care for quality. Quality was almost an accident. They just wanted product. So this 16-year-old started sending in stories, and they gave it to Sam Glasman, and it was this wonderful continued story. It never had a conclusion. Well, the conclusion was done, I forget where they did the conclusion for.
AC maybe, because AC did a reprint of all these.
But this is collected in a hardcover. Probably, knowing Dark Horse, they've done the best they can at making the art look as good as possible. I've read a few of these here and there because I was not a military comic kid. Didn't like war comics. And Carlton, I never went out of my way to buy Carlton. But my grandfather on my dad's side, she would have, just a handful of whatever comics were out. And sometimes she'd have some Carlton books. And you get bored enough in the 70s, you're going to read them. And I remember that story was like far and above. When you read Carlton books, most of it was crap. But then, here's a Ditko story. Oh, my gosh, this is good. Or, oh, wow, it's a Tom Sutton story. This is really weird and disturbing, and I'm going to have bad dreams. And these were like, wow, this is really good for a war comic. And
I'll take that back. In 1999, the Avalon Comic Group, under their ACG print, reprinted the 4 issues that were from Fighting Army, but didn't have the ending.
Yeah.
And they're very pricey if you can find them. You know, I mean, even for a reprint, some of them goes. I mean, issue number 3 for some reason goes for like $50.
And one other thing I want to point out for Dark Horse, there is no EC reprint this month. And I think that's the first time in forever they haven't had either a new hardcover or a new softcover. I think they're done with the hardcovers. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they've completed all the hardcovers. So now what we're going to get are going to be the trade paperback reprints of the EC archives. And I will point those out as they come out.
On the same page, but back on page 142, Girlfriend in Paris, a bloodthirsty bedtime storybook. Arnold and Jacob Pander. The fugitive romance continues between Karina, a day-walking vampire, and Nick, a nocturnal mortal, living out their storybook fantasy in Paris by day and hunting down criminals by night to feed Karina's hunger. Nick's moral line continues to be pushed to the limit. When Karina discovers her latest prey holds a dark criminal secret, it'll put their immortal love pact to the test when they attempt to rescue an innocent girl from a deadly underworld plot. It's a hardcover graphic novella told by Karina in poetic verse, rendered with crisp line art and lush digital watercolor, and a new Girl Fiend pinup gallery. So I said girlfriend, I meant Girl Fiend.
My problem with this, now I love the Pander brothers ever since they did the first story arc on the Grendel comic. But 72 pages for $20 with a bunch of pinups. Yeah, that's too much.
Well, then maybe you want to go to page 146 and 147. Again, I don't play it, but if you're a Minecraft fan, here you got a trade paperback, or I should say an original graphic novel, Minecraft Open World Into the Nether trade paperback, which is only $10.99 for 88 pages. Across from it, a couple box sets with or without, and of course, there's a Minecraft box set. So for your friend or fan who likes Minecraft, note these are going on sale in October, so these might be a good chance to get to a little early Christmas shopping. It's not even July. I say the same thing on the next page for the Avatar fans. So, which I am on, but I mean, these are not anything I'm looking to pick up, but they got the Airbender box set plus listing everything available that Dark Horse has for Airbender, along with the code. So if you bring the code to your friendly neighborhood comic shop, they can order these books up for you and your friends. I have nothing else Dark Horse related. Anything for you, Cory?
Nope, that was it.
All right. How about Dynamite? You got anything for Dynamite?
I do.
Ooh.
Page 167.
Oh wow, I don't have that mark. Let's see what it is.
That is Evil Ernie #1,
Oh,
the 30th anniversary facsimile edition. This is a reprint of the first Evil Ernie comic, written by Brian Pulido, drawn by Stephen Hughes. Stephen Hughes' art in this is beautiful. It's such a shame that he passed away so young, because his art in here was great. And as the comic went on, his art kept getting better and better. I always thought Evil Ernie was kind of a silly idea, but Stephen Hughes' art dragged me along. And then after he passed away, I kind of drifted away and lost interest in the character. But I'm going to be picking this up just for that Stephen Hughes art.
and if you're feeling rich, get Dynamite Metal Premium Edition for a mere $100. Scoff if you will, but some of the after prices on these metal editions go silly. If you don't remember back when, if you remember back when I had that Hell Witch one that I surprised myself about, I kept it for a while, but I sold it about $500. There are some days, I mean, it was cool, and I'm thinking, but I read comics. I mean, I don't necessarily hang on to them just because the cover looks cool. So
just because the cover is metal.
And Dynamite and other people, they do that. So Coffin does that. So if you have a chance of getting a metal one. You could probably hang on to it for a while. It'll be real interesting to see how these sell because I don't know if anybody's going to pick them up.
And that was really all I had with Dynamite.
Well, I will point out a couple things just because, new series. If you're a James Bond fan, on page 156, 007's cranked up again. He's back in action after high-stakes rescue mission. 007 is mysteriously, violently sabotaged. Oh, I'm sorry. The mission's sabotaged. So James Bond's
Sabotage.
And at M16 hangs in the balance. As he awaits his fate, Bond is urgently contacted by an old flame and mentor, Gwendolyn Gahn, formerly Agent 003, who warns Bond of an existential threat to England and a global balance of power. But before they can meet, she turns up dead, sending Bond on his most personal mission of his career, find her killers. And on page 158, again, you get a good interview with the writer of the series. That's one thing I like about Dynamite. They do they triumph and give a little more in-depth to the creator doing this series. Like, if you go to page 163, if you're Lady Hell comes along. My guess is, in case you don't realize it, Brian Pluto has the rights to Lady Death, which is why you don't see Evil Ernie and Lady Death crossing. In the original mythos, Lady Death created Evil Ernie because she could only return to Earth from which she came if all life was dead, because life causes her physical pain. So she created her love, Evil Ernie. But my guess is, and I might be wrong, Lady Hell going to fit into that mythos because everything else is owned by whomever that Dynamite does. They do Evil Ernie, they do Purgatory, Lady Demon, Lady Chastity. Here's Lady Hell debuting. So she might be kind of their Lady Death replacement because Lady Death is having their own fun time under the Coffin logo with very, very successful Kickstarters. Speaking of successful, Dynamite also does a lot. They're doing fairy tale one-shots. And starting on page 168, you've got Red Sonja. Then on page 170, Delia Torres from John Carter, Warlord of Mars. And then 172, Vampirella. My guess is maybe there might be a trade later, but if not, there you get your chance to have fun with that. And then, of course, my favorite stuff that Dynamite does is their merchandising stuff. On page 186, 187, you get a couple Virgin cover editions, they say, offered to the direct market for the first time, which I'm not sure where they were offered originally. But you got Elvira, Wrath of Khan Virgin cover edition underneath, Mars Attacks Red Sonja #1, which is the Dan Jurgens special line art cover edition. Underneath that, metal. Sheena, Queen of Jungle #2, metal cover edition. These are the Todd McFarlane inspired homage covers. These are a little more pricey, $50 for the first two, $100 for the next. And then some of the stuff offered again. You got the Chaos 25th Anniversary Ultra Premium sketch cards. They come $35. I believe in an individual special 25th Anniversary envelope. Signed cards featured a color ink or ultra rare gold ink signature. On the other page are those coins I love, the two Joe Linsner ones. Underneath, another Joseph Linsner Dawn statue. There's the Elvira $50 coin and Pathfinder Battle Ready statues. So Dynamite does some great jobs with merchandising. I never see this stuff in any comic store I go to in the Twin Cities. You might see the Dawn statue here and there. There's a reason why when I had Hot Comics, I sold the bejesus out of stuff like this. Chaos was the big thing. Nobody else ordered it. So somebody come in the shop and I had it. So just word to you would-be comic shop owners out there. And that's it for I don't want to get Jimmy Walker mad at me. Dynamite.
And now, DC.
Oh, so that means I get to close my previous catalog for the moment and go over and reach for your supplement, issue number 25, June 2022 of DC Connect, soliciting comics on sale for August 2022. And the first thing up, and this will shock you because I have not bought much Batman since things have been going on here with the DCs. I'm picking up, well, I don't know if I'm going to pick this up or wait for the inevitable trade, but Batman, One Bad Day, the Riddler. Dark Knight's greatest villains get their greatest stories yet. Riddler, Two-Face, Penguin, Mr. Freeze, Catwoman, Bane, Clayface, Ra's al Ghul, and Orson Welles are all given 64-page prestige format specials that show why they are the greatest villains in all of comics. Batman, One Bad Day, the Riddler starts out. Tom King, again, you got me at Tom King. Mitch Gerald, sorry. Let's see. They reunite to dive deep into the mind of Batman's most intellectual foe, the Riddler. He's killed a man in broad daylight, the Riddler has, for seemingly no reason, but there's always a reason. The Riddler's always playing a game. There are always rules. Batman will reach his wits' end trying to figure out the Riddler's true motivation in this epic psychological thriller. This is one not to be missed. Variant covers, if you want, including a Jim Lee one, some pictures of the art in progress, which must mean it's going to be colorized. So I'm excited for this. I don't know if Tom's doing all these, but this one, it looks kind of interesting, and I'm really on it.
Same here. That was one I had. On my first pick after that is on page 15, DC Saved by the Belle Reve. School's back in session, and we just know you're waiting for the bell to give you some relief. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it's another anthology book. $10 for 80 pages, prestige format. You got Art Balthazar, Franco, Dan Waters, Becky Cloonan, Tim Seeley, Brandon Thomas, Peter Tomasi, art by Art Balthazar, Mike Norton, Scott Collins. I love these anthology books. It's going to be 8 stories set in the DC universe. Suicide Squad is sent to an international prep school to protect a dignitary's son, etc., etc. We get a new Tiny Titans story. I love these anthology books. Absolutely do. Because the best thing about them is you've got all of these different creators, and they're forced to tell a story in a limited number of pages, so they can't sprawl things out forever. So it's short hits, well done stories with that you don't need to read anything else for. You can pick these up and not have read a DC comic in months and still be able to pick it up and get everything that's going on. I like these. Joe?
Cory, do you have $1.1 million?
Not on me.
Well, how about $3 million?
I'd have to sell a couple things.
Okay, how about $500?
I don't have that either.
Okay, well, I've just gone from the highest price estimated if the CGC 9.2 copy of Detective Comics 27 ever comes up on market. The most expensive copy ever sold of Detective Comics 27 is a very fine 8.0 for $1.1 million back in 2010, which is amazing that there is it's amazing there's a near mint copy of Detective Comics 27 floating around. If you've got $500, you can buy the Loot Crate copy, 9.8 or 160 comics for a famous first editions, or for a mere $6.99, you can buy the facsimile edition that's being offered on page 17 of Detective Comics number 27. And of course, with facsimile, it means it's as it was as you'd pick it up on the newsstand. I am so geeking for this. I've read the story billions of times, but just to see what else was in it. Was Batman right away? Was it placed somewhere else? What the ads were like? This is 1939 that this came out. I'm very excited to get this. And, if they do, I've seen facsimile editions of Action. I would still buy one if they offered it. But I'm hoping they do this. I'm hoping they don't cancel it. Again, if you get $155, you can go out and buy yourself a raw copy of Sandman 1. Otherwise, right above it, there's your facsimile edition for $3.99. That's an amazing price. I may buy it just to have it because I do have one, and I actually got it signed by Neil Gaiman way back when you and I visited at Dreamhaven. Back when it was, hey, Neil Gaiman's at Dreamhaven instead of, people stand back. Neil Gaiman is about to get on stage. Because a Neil Gaiman signing is like a rock concert now. And finding a raw Sandman 1 is going to cost you, baby. But here you got a couple facsimile editions, and I think they're very cool. And I'm probably going to pick them both up. I'm definitely on Detective Comics. It's your last chance on it for just a mere $6.99.
There were some other one-shots that I find interesting. I don't know if I'm getting them or not. There is a Flash annual, a Wonder Girl annual, and a Harley Quinn annual. I like annuals because most of the time they're done in one stories, so I will probably pick these up. There is also a Harley Quinn, the animated series Real Sidekicks of New Gotham. That is another one of those 80-page anthology books. DC putting out the anthologies. And then there's one that I have not been reading, Wonder Woman. So I'm kind of confused. Olympus Rebirth. After years of bitter and violent conflict, the Greek pantheon of gods stands united to welcome their latest goddess, Hippolyta of Themistria. Due to heroic efforts in the mortal realm, the former queen has earned her rightful place among the gods and plans to use her newfound powers to take care of her Amazon sisters from beyond. Little does she know some of the gods are wary of the new future Hippolyta brings and will do just about anything to stop it. It's a tie-in to Wonder Woman. I hate to say it, I've never really been a guy who likes the Greek gods. The Greek and Roman gods, they're the ones that everybody used to know. Now we all know the Norse gods. Thank you, Thor. But the Greek gods, I never really took a shine to for some reason. I never much cared for their stories. I think because they were all just, they in a lot of ways, they were just too weird.
So you're saying the Greeks don't like no freaks?
Probably, yeah.
This reference to give you an idea how old I am.
And Mary Marvel's getting her own
Yes.
4-issue series, which will make our friend Al Sparrow very happy, who every Monday has a drawing of Mary Marvel and has created a mythology around her as being a spoiled brat who hates Supergirl. So every Monday he will post a picture and then a long dialogue of Mary Marvel arguing with her writer, artist, and everybody else involved. And the hard thing is, when I see Mary Marvel now, I think of her having the personality that Al has given her rather than the personality she has in the comics.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm picking this one up. I didn't like the way, okay, people, I want you to follow along closely. This is how you tell somebody in fandom you don't like something. Not it sucks, not it's terrible, not they don't know what they're doing. Okay, I didn't like the current take on Shazam. I watched the movie, I tried to read the comic. It just wasn't what I like because I'm like the old CC Beck Shazam guy from Pre-52. I'm intrigued with this. I don't know what's going on in the previous series, but they do say that Billy Batson had a heroic sacrifice and that the power of Shazam has vanished. She's been left powerless. Most heroes would be distraught and argue with their writers, but not Mary. It's finally time for a voyage of self-discovery as she prepares for her freshman year of college and civilian life. But nothing's ever truly normal for this young hero because she's just been chosen as the new champion of Shazam, at least according to a talking rabbit sent by her estranged brother Billy. Will she embrace the power, or will it die along with this world's hope of survival against some mysterious magic forces waiting to take control? So I'm excited about this 4-issue series. I'm looking at the different variant covers. I probably won't go with the 1 in 25. I may go with the cardstock cover just because that photo is very, very, very intriguing. I do like it. Or I'll go cheap and just get the regular one. So yeah, I'm excited about this one. Flip the page over. Here we have Tales of the Human Target. One shot. A lot of one shots. Maybe, I know sometimes comic companies will do miniseries. Maybe this is DC's way of trying to gauge their characters and rebuild the brand. But if it does, it might be working. Tales of the Human Target, building on the most critical acclaimed series of the year, which ironically is underneath in a trade paperback because you didn't pick it up. 4 of comics' top artists, along with Tom King, tell the tales of what happened before Chance drank Luther's poison. Teams up with fan favorite members of the JLI and 4 connecting mysteries that lead them to that fateful day when one of them will kill the human target. So a couple miniseries. Again, I like the variant cover, but I ain't paying extra for it. I would probably just go with the regular one. And of course, as I mentioned, if you haven't picked up the story, there's your chance to pick it up in trade paperback.
They are doing a bunch of Black Adam books because of the Black Adam movie coming out. If I were to recommend one, it would be Black Adam Rise and Fall of an Empire, which is the Black Adam story from 52.
I also like Kitty Corner Black Adam, JSA Black Rain, which I believe it's pre-52.
Yes.
JSA, which was a fantastic series, ties over into Hawkman and finishes up in the Black Rain. So that as a Jeff Johns standalone story. I have JSA in its own standalone, so I don't need it. Those are 2 recommendations you got from your best buds in comics. On page 30 is the new Diana graphic novel. I raved about it on our free comic book day special. What we need is someone to jump in and go, see last week's podcast. Anyways, Diana and Nubia, Princess of the Amazons. Again, these are young reader, if not all reader. I'm trying to find. I think this might be. Whatever. It's good. The stories are great. It's charming. You can even headcanon it in that this is Diana growing up on Paradise Island. So I recommend them.
Now
After
we get
that,
to the trade
yeah,
paperbacks and hardcovers.
I'm into the trades. So
Now,
I've been talking. You first.
I am wavering on Batman the Silver Age Omnibus Volume 1 on page 43. And you'll go, Cory, you always talk about how much you like these older Batman stories. This is the area where Batman was super silly. It wasn't until Julie Schwartz took over as editor after these stories had killed the sales on Batman that Batman became good again. These are the ones where you've got Bat Ape. You've got Rainbow Batman. You've got Robin Dies at Dawn, where Robin died on a alien planet. And the Batman comics were really just aping the type of story that were being done in Superman.
Just look at the cover there. Hurry, Batman. The Batwoman is beating us on this mission. Oh, my God. A woman beating the men. Gasp.
Now, once Julie Schwartz took over, the Batman stories took a huge leap in quality because he brought in the people who'd been working on his books like Flash and Green Lantern and Justice League. And the puzzle aspect actually worked because they did Batman as a detective. These are goofy, nostalgia-driven comics. I don't know if I'm going to pick it up or not. I know that this will be reprinted in a pair of paperbacks. The problem is the pair of paperbacks will cost as much as the hardcover omnibus. So this is one where I won't decide till the very last day. Sorry, I won't. Joe and I are both going to order the Phantom Stranger omnibus for a third time.
Again, yeah. I'm looking at it and I'm wondering, did they actually add stuff to it?
Let me look here.
I thought the original one was 1 through 6 and the Phantom Stranger series from 69, which went to 41.
No, I remember it had stuff from Saga of the Swamp Thing.
Okay, and then of course DC Superstars 18, which is a fabulous story. House of Secrets, Justice League 103.
It's everything up to the Phantom Stranger miniseries that Mike Mignola did.
Okay. All right, DC, we'll try it again. If you've never, ever read it, on page 42 is Batman Hush 20th Anniversary Deluxe Edition. Or if you want the brand new cover from Jim Lee, plus tons of behind-the-scenes material from the making of this modern masterpiece, you should pick this up. I have this in Absolute Edition. It's one of the better stories I think Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee and Scott Williams have ever done. It definitely holds together, and it's worth rereading over and over and over again. So here's your chance to do it for a mere $49.99 in a very, very nice hardcover package.
And then on page 47, they're reprinting the Wonder Woman by George Perez Omnibus Volume 1. If you missed it the first time, this was kind of the first time George Perez wrote a series. He started with help from Len Wein. And then after George felt comfortable enough scripting, Len bowed out. His run on Wonder Woman was in a lot of ways the only time I've ever enjoyed the character a lot.
Yeah. I actually have it in the paperback editions, which I've raved about. Otherwise, I'd be on this one. Did you pick up the Golden Age omnibuses?
No, because I picked them up in the archive form, and they're just terrible.
Yeah.
The art is crude, the stories are weird and don't make a lot of sense, and incredibly repetitive.
Yeah.
Every story, Wonder Woman gets captured and tied up, and they're awful. They're just awful. And then I try, the Wonder Woman in the Silver Age is different. No, Wonder Woman in the Silver Age is just like the Batman stories, except goofier. And the only thing that makes it any
I'm
good.
not going to sit here and listen to you badmouth egg foo.
How about Wonder Tot? They were so confusing that when the Teen Titans put Wonder Girl in the Teen Titans, the editor at on Wonder Woman actually came over and said, "You do know that Wonder Girl is just Wonder Woman as a little girl." They're like,
"Not anymore."
Wait, then why is she having adventures with Wonder Girl all the time? Because readers want that. Well, how do you explain it? We don't. Great.
DC, I would buy an omnibus of all the Gorilla stories you want to put in one. I would. I would. Now, I think we can agree, Flash by Mark Waid omnibus, if you don't have it, is definitely worth picking up.
Yes.
Because that one is on my I'm never sure if I want to buy this in like paperback form or just bite it and do the omnibus. But it's an expensive omnibus month for me. I mean, we haven't gotten that.
Oh yeah.
Yet.
Last month was a nothing month. This month is a monster.
So those are the big ones that I would I'm definitely going for the Phantom Stranger. If there's cash left over, maybe Flash. I don't know how your house is doing, Cory, but I'm starting to notice a lean on one side where I have all the omnibuses. I'm gonna have to maybe get a few, and I'm not gonna even them out because I'm recovering from a hernia. I can't be lifting these things. I'm telling you, reading that War of Realms almost did me in. But, maybe just buy a few more and kind of get the house to just even itself out. Anything else, DC?
Nothing else, DC, because that's the last page.
Oh, all right. Marvel free previews number 9, June for August 22nd solicitation.
Want to warn people that they've already announced that some of these comics are being pushed back to September.
So I would be cautious.
So be ready.
Well, it depends, because Marvel F's me up so many times when they push comics about, and then they'll advertise, and I'm like, I'll go to order it online, and it's like, where is it? Where is it? Oh, I was supposed to order it 4 months ago. And fortunately, I track everything so I can go back and order it 4 months ago. So, yeah, keep an eye on what you're ordering, because Marvel's getting tricky again.
First thing I'm getting is on page 14.
Me too.
Amazing Fantasy 1000. I have no idea how they got to that number. None at all.
No.
And I doubt they will ever be able to give me an explanation that makes any sense at all. However, this is an 60th anniversary Spider-Man book written by Neil Gaiman, Jonathan Hickman, Dan Slott, Ho-Chi Anderson, Kurt Busiek, and more. Cover by John Romita Jr., wraparound variant cover by Joe Quesada, variant cover by J. Scott Campbell.
I wish they'd had shown all of them, because as it is, they show 4 out of the dozen, half dozen. The Campbell covers alone would probably be beautiful. I love Peach Momoko.
We do get the Peach Momoko cover.
Yeah. I will probably go with the JR cover. If that's the whole, it's on page 15. If that's the entire mock-up, I actually kind of like that, just because it's him kind of leaping down.
Yeah, that J. Scott Campbell cover does not look good.
Well, I think it looks good, but he's got, what do we got? There's a variant cover, there's a Virgin variant, which will probably be expensive, and then a retro variant, which I'd be real curious to see. But yeah, Peach definitely, but I am liking the JR. I would love to have seen the wraparound by Joe Quesada. He's a free agent, But yeah, that's definitely one of the first ones for me. I will point out on page 17, Edge of the Spider-Verse, another miniseries, because this is a introduction to, well, you're gonna have to buy it and find out, I guess, because there's
Spider Rats.
The final Edge will introduce you to some of the most important characters in the future of the Spider-Verse. It will also slice the final strand of the web. I'm not buying the Edge of Spider-Verse. I think it's cool that it's out there. However, remember Edge of Spider-Verse number 2, baby. And even the one with Spider-Man Noir is got a little heat on it. So this is one of those, maybe just buy the one and put it somewhere safe and see what happens.
Now, Joe, do you remember the Gwen Stacy miniseries that started up before the pandemic?
Yes.
They did 3 issues, and then the pandemic hit, and it stopped.
Yep.
Well, you could get the whole darn thing on page 20. It's Gwen's own miniseries finally gets an ending. We're putting it all together, representing issues 1 through 3 of the Gwen Stacy limited series. But it'll also have issues 4 and 5. 120 pages, one shot for $9.99. It's going to be bound like a comic, but it's cheaper than a trade paperback. I'm picking it up because I read the first issue. Well, I've read all 3 issues on Marvel Unlimited. Absolutely loved it. And I think the package is, hey, here's the whole miniseries for $10.
Yeah,
that's a good package.
On page 21, right across from it, another Damage Control miniseries, 5 issues. Let's see. Marvel's unsung heroes finally get sung. After the mega powerful battles and Hulk-level catastrophes, Damage Control is always there to clean up the mess and get things back to normal. Damage Control is much more than a glorified cleanup crew, and this new series will pull back the curtain and reveal the inner workings that were previously only available to people with clearance level 8. And I don't know about you, Cory, but I was stuck at 6 or 5 for a long time. We'll witness it through the eyes of Gus, the fresh-faced, eager newcomer to the company who has no idea how chaotic his life is about to become. So, first appearance of Gus, is going to be a double bag must-have. Definitely CGC it. Multiple copies of it. For me, I'm just going to pick a 5-issue series. Or, there's a trade coming, but I'll pick it up as a paperback. So,
Joe, do you remember the Long Shot miniseries
yes.
by Anna Senti and Art Adams?
Adams, he's a hack. Never last.
Well, we're finally getting a sequel.
We are?
Yep. Page 26, X-Men Legends number 4. Anna Senti and Javier Pina are doing a long shot story. I don't know if it's one issue or multiple issues, but X-Men Legends is picking up where that left off. I like X-Men Legends. I know it doesn't sell well because it's not in current continuity and it's not hot creators, but they're the creators that I enjoy, like Roy Thomas and now Anna Senti.
Let's see, for me, I got a note jump to page 55. There's a new Alien series coming out. Man, machine, and the most terrifying creature in the universe. It's an express elevator to hell, and you're going to want to be on it. A small colony of synths have settled in secret on a backwater moon when a company of United States soldiers comes to them for help in retrieving biotechnology on a hostile planet that could be key to saving humanity. The synths must decide whether the prospect of peace between man and machine is worth the risk of betrayal. So here's your chance, jump on board.
And for me, that's it with new comics.
Let's see, let me just take a look here. I think that's it for me as well for new comics. And now into the graphic novels.
Now where the money goes.
Yeah, there's a big 2-page spread for the all-new Fantastic Four graphic novel by legendary Alex Ross, which is actually in the previews catalog under abramscomicart.com. And this one confused me because didn't we order this last month?
That was the slipcase edition. This is the regular edition.
So, yeah, if you're not nuts like Cory and I and buy slipcases, here's your $24.99. Again, your comic retailer can order it. If you're looking for it, though, it's in the actual previews catalog under Abrams Comic Art. Just wanted to point that out.
Omnibus-wise.
Omnibus!
On page 64, I could not believe this has been collected as an omnibus before.
I know.
House of M. Now, House of M was collected in a whole bunch of trade paperbacks. But this is the whole thing. The miniseries, the tie-ins, all of it. I loved this idea.
Oh, I think this was probably the last one I bought every single crossover and tie-in with it because I loved it as well.
The idea is at the end of Avengers Disassembled, we find out that Wanda has kind of snapped and she goes off to be taken care of. Well, her power continues to grow and she creates a world where the X-Men are in charge. So she reforms the Marvel Universe into a different reality. And at the end of this is the thing that changed Marvel for a good decade, and that is when she says, no more mutants. An excellent crossover, probably one of the, I think this was the first where after Joe Quesada had taken over and said no more big crossovers, everything had built up to this. This was kind of the first big line-wide crossover, and because we hadn't had one in a good 4 or 5 years, we were hungry for it, and it was a good one. On the next page is an omnibus I will not be buying.
Yeah, this is one of those. As much as I want to do it, I have it in Essentials. It's online, and as I believe you talked about, just not Jim Starlin, notwithstanding, just not that good.
This is the Captain Marvel omnibus. Reprints his stories from Marvel Superheroes 12 and 13, Captain Marvel 1 through 33, the first appearance of Thanos in Iron Man 55. I've got all the stories I want to read from this in that Thanos omnibus, because Captain Marvel was never an interesting character. He was thrown together last second by Stan Lee and Gene Colan when Martin Goodman said, "Hey, the name Captain Marvel is out of copyright. We need a Captain Marvel. We need it on the stands now." Never mind the fact that Myron Fass, longtime scumbag, had already put out the Captain Marvel under his, which was the hero who, when he yelled "split," his head, arms, and legs would fly off. I guess he didn't trademark it or copyright it properly or whatever.
Or didn't sell or shit.
Well, that didn't mean anything for copyright purposes. It was very much, okay, there's a Kree soldier. He's come to Earth. He's supposed to be spying on us, but he's won over by humanity. But there's an evil Kree soldier who's always trying to kill him. And that was boring as hell. Then it's okay, we're going to merge him with Rick Jones so we could do the Shazam type thing where whenever they bang the wristbands together, they trade places. And that wasn't very good either. And the series was canceled repeatedly, but they kept bringing it back so they could keep the copyright. And the book was, they did everything. They tried everything, and it just wasn't very good until Jim Starlin came on. And Jim Starlin could have used his story with any character at Marvel. So I'm not picking this up. I have the Essential. I've got all of it in reprints. And the only part that I really am going to read more than once every blue moon to go, yep, boy, Gene Colan's art's pretty, but this story is crap, is going to be the Jim Starlin stuff. Now, I understand that this is the last of the classic Marvel characters to get an omnibus, unless you're counting Sergeant Fury, which I doubt Sergeant Fury's ever getting an omnibus.
I don't know. They did the Jack Kirby romance stuff. I haven't even looked to see what that goes for on the secondary market.
Yeah, I haven't looked either. They also reprint the John Byrne Fantastic Four Volume 2 because they did Volume 1 a little while back. They reprint the Daredevil by Miller and Jansen omnibus. If you don't have that, that's a must-buy. I do already have that. I was able, when it was selling for scary amounts of money, I was able to find a copy down at Cedar Cliff Collectibles for half price. And I very quickly picked that up because I knew if Steve Brown, man of renown, the man without a frown, actually, no, he's the man who's always got a frown.
He's always bringing it down.
If he looked online, he would have said, "Oh, that's $300 rather than the $50. But if you do not have that Daredevil by Miller and Jansen, pick it up. It is amazingly good. I am picking up Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel years, Volume 10. Now, what I am hearing...
Speaking of books that will probably inflate in price.
What I'm hearing is Marvel is keeping the rights to do reprints.
Oh.
Of the stuff they have done.
Mm-hmm.
They're also going to get to finish out the story with Savage Avengers.
Cool.
But new Conan stories are going to be made by the people who own the Conan rights for books and everything else. They're going to do it themselves, a lot like what the Edgar Rice Burroughs people do with Tarzan. It's much more popular overseas. So they're going to create comics that'll be printed overseas, and they might get printed here in the U.S., but they'll be primarily through a subscription service on a Conan website in the future. That's the current plan. Those plans are always subject to change, but I did pick up the Tarzan book that Dark Horse did of the Roy Thomas, Tom Yates stuff that they do online. It's beautiful stuff. But Tarzan doesn't sell in the U.S. And looking at the Conan sales figures, it did not sell very well at Marvel. Now the reprints are selling through the roof. Come on, they're on the 10th omnibus of the regular comic, and I think they're up to 8 or 9 omnibuses of Savage Sword. But the regular comic just didn't sell.
Yeah, the only thing
I find that really weird.
Well, oh, you're talking of the new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I thought you were talking about the original Marvel years.
No, when it was at Marvel until the 90s, it was always in the top 5 of Marvel sales, to the point where if you read Marvel comics in the 70s, they have Conan listed as much as Spider-Man. That book sold like you couldn't believe.
So, which cover are you going for here?
I will probably go with the direct market only cover just because it's a little rarer. They're both covers that I don't care for, oddly enough. The McFarlane cover is, that's a weird pose. You can't tell what's going on. And the Jim Lee is very much we're right up in their face. And again, you can't tell what's going on. It's very 90s.
And I remember people buying that just because Jim Lee did the cover too.
And the McFarlane, I remember them buying it just for the McFarlane cover. Yeah. This is also when Roy Thomas came back to Conan after being away at DC for a while.
And I think he hung on till the end, because somewhere in my collection of stuff, I have the last Marvel Conan of the run that Roy Thomas signed.
Well, and he then did the series that came after it, which didn't last very long. He did a couple of the mini-series they did afterward.
And Conan Classics.
Well, and it was, I forget what the Conan series after Conan the Barbarian was. They started it over with the new #1. And that didn't help. So they did a number of mini-series. And Roy only did a couple of those. But then, they had to put out a number of Conan comics every year in order to keep the rights. And they were just paying $100 a month for the rights. They never had to renegotiate the contract, because in the contract it said, as long as you publish a Conan comic every month or however many, this many per year, you keep the rights at $100 a month. Well, during the bankruptcy, they kind of forgot to do that. And that's why the rights went to Dark Horse, because Dark Horse, they said, well, Marvel's lost the rights. They're up for bid. And Dark Horse bid the most. Marvel actually did not bid that much. So, and now the rights are gone again, and I don't think Marvel's going to be shedding too many tears about the rights for new Conan comics going away. On the next page is Incredible Hulk by Peter David, Omnibus 2 reprint.
Which is cool, because that's the one I'm missing, as I just got #4 in my last box date. So I'll have all the Omnibus. And it was a good run that Peter David Dunn did there.
Yes. 10 years.
Oh.
There is a Marvel Voices trade paperback, which reprints all of the Marvel Voices one-shots. I like
79,
those.
Yes.
And they also have the other ones available, such as Women of Marvel, Marvel Voices Pride, Marvel Voices Identity, Marvel Voices Legacy, Reign of X #16. If you missed Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham in the 80s, there you go. They finished their reprinting of that as well. The Epic collections are the Volume 6 in reprinting the Conan stuff from Marvel. Volume 4 of Moon Knight, which reprints a bunch of one-shots. And let's see. the 85 series, and the first 7 issues of the 90s series. And then the other epics are reprints of Wolverine, the Avengers. There's a new Venom collection, which pretty much... Okay, nope, this reprints his appearances in a few miniseries. The Star Wars Legends Epic Collection, New Republic Volume 6. This is the stuff that Dark Horse originally printed. And then the small size Marvel Masterworks is the Black Panther.
I may get this. I'm torn because A, it's available online. I have it in Essentials. And the fact that my eyesight's slowly going because I'm an old fart. I don't like the idea I have to put on cheaters in order to read me comic books. But that's a good package for what they're offering.
And there you go. That's Marvel. Buying more this month than last month. Of course, that's not hard.
No.
And now that we've been talking for how long? We've been talking for an hour and 30 minutes.
Well, you got a lot of sidebars to go down.
The rest are previews.
Yep. Page 222 is that book we mentioned, Fantastic Four Full Circle graphic novel, in case you're questioning it. As if we didn't have enough omnibuses on page 224. Let's see, this is being published by Abrams Comic Arts as well. The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Omnibus Volume 1. The Treehouse of Horror started as an annual Halloween tradition on the Simpsons TV show. And that started in their second season, 1990. In 1995, the first of 23 comics were produced by Bongo, telling new stories written and illustrated by some of the biggest names in comics: Michael Allred, Sergio Aragones, Kyle Baker, Jill Thompson, as well as celebrities such as Mark Hamill, Pat Oswalt, Gene Simmons. When these came out, they were a must-have, a must-buy for me. And now they're collected here, and the first time in a deluxe hardcover slipcase with a new die-cast cover that glows in the dark. Come on, and it's only $39.99. So these quite possibly were the most fun. I mean, the Simpson comics were fun, but I always made sure to find the Treehouse of Horror one. Here they got it right away in an omnibus. What I'm not suggesting you buy is right across from it, the Night Eaters Volume 1, She Eats at Night graphic novel, signed previews, exclusive edition, limited to 3,000 copies. Why? Well, because I'm ordering it, and as each copy will include a signed book place from Marjorie M. Louis, and this is the first volume in a new graphic novel horror trilogy from her and Sana Tadeka. They also did thank you. I was trying to get that, but they did the series Monstrous from Image. So again, don't order it because there's only 3,000 of them, and every time I order something that's only 3,000, I never get it. So I'm telling you, don't order it. Save it for later. Actually, that's the book underneath it. That actually sounds pretty good. But
yep, I'm going to point out Save It for Later. Promises Parenthood and the Urgency of Protest. In this anthology of 7 comics essays, author and graphic novelist Nate Powell addresses living in an era of what he calls necessary protest. It is his reflection on witnessing the collapse of discourse in real time while drawing the award-winning trilogy March with Congressman John Lewis. I am picking that one up because it sounds like a great companion to March. And March is one of my favorite graphic novels. And so that's one that I am recommending. Joe?
On page 226, Terry Moore's at it again. Parker Girls #1. When Annie Graham's lifeless body washes up on a beach, the nation mourns the loss of a popular actress. Police suspect her death was no accident. Graham's husband, billionaire, who has the best lawyers money can buy, and the investigation stalls. That's when Tammy Baker decides to take matters into her own hands and enlists 3 of her finest Parker girls operatives to bring the Lot Empire down, one shocking scandal at a time. I'm excited for this. I wait for trades with Terry's stuff, but again, point it out if you want to jump on board, because I think this is going to be a fun ride.
On page 253, after kind of a dearth of new Archie books, there are a couple that I want to pick up. First is Sabrina 60 Magical Stories,
Yes.
which is a 512-page trade paperback, probably digest size. For $15, it's 60 stories about Sabrina the Teenage Witch to celebrate her 60 years in comics. Then right under that is the 1,000-page Comics Acclaim, which is digest size. Those Archie 1,000-page digests, which are also $15.99, and just a big old brick of good reading.
Across from it is Big Ethel Energy Volume 1, which collects the webtoon series, Big Ethel's Energy. She used to be the laughingstock of Riverdale. Now she's a successful New York journalist. After graduating from Riverdale High, she couldn't wait to get away from her hometown and onto her chosen career path fast enough. But when the mayor of Riverdale pays her handsomely to write a history of the city, she can't wait to return to take down Archie, Jughead, Betty, Veronica, and all the other Riverdale natives who made her life hell all those years ago. To me, in my brain, this is a recon of everything, because I remember everybody being nice to her. The gist of the stories, of course, were just her pining for Big Moose, I believe. Or was this something? No, she was always pining for Jughead, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was pining for Jughead, who would rather be with a cheeseburger.
Yeah. So again,
kind of gross.
Again, if you can accept the recon, it should be fun. The previous page has a new comic series. Our little Jinx has grown up doing Grim Fairy Tales. This is a one-shot where teenage Jinx Holiday, she's Riverdale's go-to babysitter. The often unruly kids she watches over always change, seemingly for the better. The key to her success? Her book of unique fairy tales, all of which tell a moralistic story, usually grim, gruesome ones that frighten children, with Jinx as the star of each and every one. What sinister, and I mean serious lessons will she teach her wards? $3.99, one shot. That seems to be the best we're going to get out of Archie, just a bunch of one-shots. So, again, like Cory said, I definitely get the Sabrina one. Jinx I'll probably pick up just for $3.99. It sounds like a good deal. And I think, didn't they? Oh, right above that, if you want the old-fashioned Archie and Friends Thrills and Chills for $2.99, there you go. That's got the classic stuff. Rex Lindsay, Dan Parent does the art. So... again, it's better than nothing, I guess.
My next book, you have to jump all the way to page 332. And the newly formed Lev Gleason Publications, which I need to find out more about. Is this, one of the relatives or what? They are starting a new Daredevil series, the greatest name in comics, Daredevil. It's written by Kenny Porter, who I don't know, drawn by Inaki Asplazu. Bert Hill grew up as a member of the famed Hill Family Stunts, known for their live shows and harrowing feats for film and television. In the wake of a terrible loss, Bart has decided to take up a new charge, to use his skills and trainings to take the biggest hits, survive the big explosions, and come back for more. For Bart Hill, being a hero is no mere stunt. This is also the same character that over at Dynamite they have the, the Devil. But also underneath that, they reprint the first issue of Daredevil, which was Daredevil Meets Hitler. And this is 64 pages, so it The art is presented as close as to initial newsstand appearance as possible, has undertaken a restoration, no digital color remastering. Daredevil at one point was one of the most popular characters in comics, to the point where when Lev Gleason went out of business and Martin Goodman found out that the rights had expired, that's when he went to Stan Lee and said, "We need a Daredevil comic on the stands. Just use the old character." And Stan didn't want to do that because he thought, hey, it's too messy. Now, the original Daredevil was deaf, so the Marvel Daredevil was blind.
Oh, by the way, if you've got like $20,000, you could probably find a copy of Daredevil Battles Hitler, or just buy this one for $14.99.
Yeah.
And
you can actually, it's in public domain. There are a number of websites that I've talked about in the past where you can just download it and read it, as well as every original Daredevil story. But for this, I want to see how they do with reproducing it and just get the physical of it. And I want to see what they're going to do with the Daredevil character, bringing it back, not with tying it in with the Project Superhero stuff that Dynamite does.
And I would suggest maybe buying the Daredevil Battles Putin cover and have them side by side. Although you're going to spend a little bit more for it.
Yeah, $9.99 for this.
I'm still way back on page 228 under Aftershock with Jimmy's Little Bastards #1. A new generation of bastards is back, bolder than ever. A 3-issue oversized prestige format series from Jimmy's creators, Garth Ennis, Russ Prawn. After the shattering events of his last adventure, Jimmy is on extended leave from British intelligence, sliding slowly into middle age with carpet slippers, a Mr. Rogers sweater, and a cup of cocoa to match. The formerly sexist super spy is even re-evaluating his attitude towards women. His daughter, don't say it, don't you dare say it, Nancy, is taking up the slack in fine style, cutting a bloody swath through the Regent's rogue gallery. But a mysterious message starts Jimmy looking into his family's murky past, where he finds a new clue to a strange and deadly new danger. So they're back. While I'm still in Aftershock, I also will recommend on page 232 The Vineyard. It's a family-owned winery that sows and reaps by the blessings of the great god of wine and revelry, Dionysus, thank you. However, the vine's family patron god requires complete devotion in the form of 4 sacrificial killings a year before each harvest. This has been done in unfettered obedience. But all that changes when the family's patriarch dies in a horrible accident that leaves him paralyzed and in a wheelchair. Now the sacrificial and murderous duties of the Vine's family has fallen to the wife and the matriarch. With harvest season fast approaching and the family short of their annual sacrifice killings, struggle with conscience, and it puts the matriarch against all of her family, husband, son, daughter, in jeopardy. So what's nice about Aftershock is if you don't want to pick up, this is a new series. If you don't want to pick it up, there's also, they do very, very good with their trades. In fact, if you go to page 40, you can see they have their newer trades are listed previously, page 238, 239, and then of course 240, 241 have all their stuff that's in print at the moment, and a lot of it, they have the diamond code underneath it, so it'll be real easy for you to order it if you're so inclined.
If you jump to page 361, you will see that there is a new 45 years of 2000 AD, the best of Jerry Finley Day, from the very beginning of his careers working on girls comics for DC. D.C. Thompson, it was clear that Jerry Finney Day was a writer who oozed creative genius, both editing and writing for IPC's Tammy. He transformed the title with riveting tales, including the fondly remembered Slaves of War Orphan Farm. But it was on the boys title where he made the biggest impact, starting on Battle and then moving to 2000 AD, where he did book stories such as Rogue Trooper, The VCs, Dan Dare, and The Complete Harry 20 on the High Rock. As I've said, my knowledge of British comics is kind of a big blind spot. And I like the fact that 2000 AD Rebellion Press is putting out these history books to kind of fill in and spotlight the creators who worked on the books in England that I wouldn't know anything about. On the next page is Judge Dredd Complete Case Files Volume 40. These are books that reprint about 300 pages worth of Judge Dredd stories. The problem is they usually get canceled and resolicited at least once or twice, but I ordered them anyway. Joe?
Back on page 259, Fearless Dawn #1. There's a lot of stuff to choose from. Let's see. Fearless Dawn infiltrates the vaulted Manitoba sector to discover the secret behind Helga's chemically induced Nazi monsters. Meanwhile, all is not well back home when Fearless Dawn's boss discovers our hero has broken probation and flown the coop. Creator Steve Mannion has this. Across from him, there's short Fearless Dawn one-shots. Again, underneath it, there's a signed edition if you're into that type of thing. It just sounds just like a lot of silly fun. Asylum Press is doing it. And if you're really, really quiet, I'm getting this for Christmas for my kids. Let's see if I can say it right. Bunny Kula. Basically, Harold the dog, Chester the cat must find out the truth about the newest pet in the house, Monroe the rabbit, a suspicious-looking bunny with unusual habits and fangs. Look at the bones! Could this innocent-seeming rabbit actually be a vampire?
My next one is on page 365, and that is Impossible Jones, Volume 1, Grin and Gritty. This is a comic by Carl Kessel. I actually bought the first couple issues via Kickstarter, but now that he's putting it out as a trade paperback, I'd much rather have it as a trade paperback. It is full throttle thrills. Thief pretending to be a superhero. It's not impossible. It's Impossible Jones. It's Carl Kessel, so you know it's going to be fun superhero stuff. By the way, Joe, I hear the sound of summer.
Crickets?
No.
Ice cream.
The ice cream man.
Ooh, well, tell you what, you go run and get some ice cream.
No. They've already passed.
Yeah, they tend to go really fast.
Which is weird because we have a lot of kids around here.
And we got a lot of money.
I try to catch the ice cream man a few times a year, even though the ice cream's not that great.
No. Page 291. No, not all the fun stuff from Coffin Comics. Downbound Comics Tribe. Toddler Apocalypse. What's the worst part of trying to survive the apocalypse? Aliens? Zombies? Killer robots? Nope. It's your freaking kids. With tongues firmly planted in cheek and hearts on sleeves, an all-star group of creators. Take your favorite sci-fi and apocalyptic tropes and show how having your kids with you during the end of the world would make everything so much harder. You know, I really, you got to get your dictionary out because these guys really love using tricky words when you're trying to, podcast live and just, have it flow off your tongue. Bad enough trying to butcher people's names like Alec Cormack. Really? Apocalyptic? I will point out, if you're, we passed over IDW, but IDW is reprinting the Bloom County series, the incredible comic strip that started in 1980s. I've got it all in hardcover. They're starting it in softcover. So if you are prone to do that, there's your chance to jump on #1. Eventually, they'll go through everything, the entire series, and then what was it? Outback, and then Opus. And I even picked up the one they had where they reprinted what the college stuff, which was fun because you could kind of see where he got some of his ideas or where he recycled some of his ideas.
Joe, would you like to buy the Marvel Comics Masterworks again and pay a lot more money for them?
Sure.
Then go to page 380, Taschen America LLC, the Marvel Comics Library Volume 2 Avengers reprints the first 20 issues of the Avengers.
In huge, heavy, ball-busting style.
Yes, these are monstrous books. They are absolutely beautiful. They are out of my price range, especially since I've already got these.
Because underneath it, they're doing a second printing of Spider-Man Volume 1.
Well, these are for the art market. These are not for, these are not for you or me. These are for the people who want the big coffee table book size books. They're beautiful. We looked at the EC book that they made at Dreamhaven one time, and I probably should have had a towel because I was drooling at how beautiful it was. These are the best possible reprints. Let me see what it says here. The most pristine prestige comics have been cracked open and photographed for reproduction in close collaboration with Marvel and the Certified Guarantee Company. Each page has been photographed as printed more than a half century ago, then digitally remastered using modern retouching techniques. Accompanying the stories is an original foreword by Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige and an in-depth history by the Eisner Award-winning writer Kurt Busiek. That's illustrated with original art, little-seen photographs, and rare documents. These are beautiful books that are out of my price range. But, yeah, they're really going to town on these. The Spider-Man one sold out. They're going for a second printing, and now the Avengers. Anybody who says the comics aren't selling, well, somebody's buying them.
Back on page 340, Collecting the Simpsons, the merchandise and legacy of our favorite nuclear family. This is from Mango Press. Basically, it's a reference book showing all the different licensed products that Simpsons has. I mean, I collected a lot of the Playmate stuff, but there were snow globes, there were all sorts of things. This was created by, let's see, brandlicensing.eu. In this deluxe book, The Simpson Theory, the largest Simpsons YouTube channel, and Warren Evans, podcaster and renowned Simpson collector, unite to tell the story of the acclaimed show from the perspective of its merchandise. High-quality photos of the products, interviews with the toys' creators and writers, actors, producers, offer keen insight into the genesis of a show that inspired or rotted millions of young minds, from action figures, video games, comics, lunchboxes, and yes, cookie jars. Lots of 90s nostalgia. I love reference books like this. Very informative, and of course, also helps for a guy like me who opened his Playmate figures and is trying to figure out which accessory goes with which figure so I can put them back together again and quite possibly sell them.
On page 384, the new Hard Case Crime series, miniseries, Gun Honey, Blood for Blood, 1 of 4.
Which cover are you going for?
I have to go with the Robert McGinnis cover because Robert McGinnis, one of the greatest artists for pulp paperbacks.
Going for the nude variant?
No,
never. I will probably do the cosplay, although there is a Joe Michael Linsner and, of course, Adam Hughes. All the covers look fabulous. But,
man, that Robert McGinnis cover, he's the guy who did most of the James Bond posters from the 60s. Any classic 60s men's adventure novel usually had a Robert McGinnis cover. With gun expert Joanna Tan, the legendary gun honey, off the grid. Recuperating from her last job, a vengeful rival takes her place and frames Joanna for murder. On the run from Malaysia to Milan, from Montana to Monaco, can Joanna catch up with her ruthless enemy, or will she catch a bullet first?
Are you going with cover D or cover? Oh no, there it is.
Yep, cover D.
There it is, cover D. And of course, they blurb that this is currently in development as a television series. So these may suddenly have a hot demand for them if that actually happens. Cory, you're hip on music from the current scene in the 80s, right?
The 80s isn't the current scene, but I like to think I'm hip on a certain kind of music, yeah.
And because there's two bands I'm going to point out quick. Because under Opus Comics, Evanescence, Echoes from the Void, the Grammy Award winning rock band. This comic features adaptations of the band's musical catalog and short stories. It says an all-star cast of graphic artists, animators, and illustrators. But here's again, this is the type of thing I would buy for my shop. Just try to catch the non-comic fan. And then if you hop all the way to page 414, Z2 Comics, Blondie Against the Odds. I don't know if you've been getting them in Facebook ads.
Yes.
They've been having various ones. You can go from the basic book, which they're offering here. And again, Amanda Connor, Jimmy Palmiotti are writing it, John McCrea doing the art. So it's got some names behind it. And then there are signed versions and some with CDs and things like that. We've talked about this before, not necessarily the Blondie one, but here's your chance to get the Blondie one. Or if you know a Blondie fan, again, this would be the type of thing I would post in the comic store just to try to catch the eyes of fans that would not necessarily be comic fans, but might pick it up just because they know the music fan or the band. I mean, this worked. Oh, what was one Chaos did? Came with the CD.
Well, they did an Insane Clown Posse series.
Oh, yes, that was
and
one.
They did a Megadeth series.
Megadeth, that was the one. Actually came with the CD. Oh,
well, the ICP ones, every issue came with the CD.
Yep, sold a lot of them. And it was just, they were mainly because I was the only store in town that had them. Or had enough so that they could come in and, buy them months later. I haven't looked those up price-wise, but yeah, anytime you get that. We talked, was it Rock and Roll Comics a couple podcasts ago?
Yeah.
And but this is kind of the same type of thing. Just current stuff, put it up and sell it.
If you go to page 390, another Ms. Tree volume is coming out. This has the early stories of Ms. Tree by Max Allan Collins and Terry Beatty, reprinted as a collection for the first time. This is the comic that actually got me started reading detective and crime fiction back in the 80s. Before that, I would read, I'd read some men's adventure stuff. I read the Destroyer stuff. I read pulp novels. I read a lot of fantasy and science fiction, but I didn't know anything about crime and detective and noir. And I picked this comic up, and in the back, Max Collins would talk about the books he's written and the authors that influenced him. So I would go to the used bookstore with those names as a list. And that was how I got my education in crime fiction. These comics are fantastic, well written, well drawn, well put together, well worth your time. Yes, they started with the last stories, and now they've gone back to the early ones. And the early ones, they were still finding their way, but they found their way really quickly. And these are just great comics. Not just great crime comics, but great comics altogether. Joe?
We don't talk much on Valiant, but Valiant this month has a couple trade paperbacks that I'm picking up. On page 401, Archer and Armstrong Revival. They call this the Valiant Classic Collection. This is the stuff from the early 90s, back when Jim Shooter was running the company. You got Barry Windsor Smith and Bob Layton to do a couple characters, Archer and Armstrong. Love these books. And On page 401 is Archer and Armstrong, collects the 0 issue through 12. And then on the next page, the Eternal Warrior omnibus, which is, I guess this is actual omnibus hardcover.
Yep,
You and
912
I like
pages for $125.
Yep, and this has Eternal Warriors 1 through 25, the yearbook, the crossovers with Archer and Armstrong, Harbinger, Secret Weapons, and the Valiant Era Companion. This is the Valiant that I collected. And I told this story, when Pat and I started the shop, we got a lot of mileage out of it because we had a really good run of Valiant comics. They were super hot. They've since gone down from the hot prices, but some of them are still pretty pricey to catch, especially in decent shape. So I know you picked up a while back. Didn't you get like a thumb drive with everything on it?
Yeah.
Yeah, which just sounds like a fantastic way to do it. I didn't have the money then, but here's my chance of going second round. So it's either that or try to find the issues. We don't want to do that.
Page 414, Warrant Publishing is picking. They're basically a Warren. They're a modern version of Warren, and they're doing what Warren did with their annuals. The Shudder Annual reprints some of the stories from the early issues of Shudder, which is kind of weird when you think about it, that the magazine just started a few months ago, but this is for 2023. And then, of course, you've got Vampiress Carmella. And for me, that was the end of the new stuff.
I've only got one more. In Vault Comics, I know in Vault, it wasn't a lot of stuff that really caught my eye. But in Vault Comics on page 404, End After End number 1. Life is nothing if not a series of endings, schools, jobs, friendships, love. Walter Wilhelm's death was fast, unexpected. He was an unremarkable life. So, how is it that his story continues as cannon fodder in an endless war waged against an insatiable darkness hell-bent on consuming all of existence? So, there. We've read paragraphs, and I swear some of these things we've read books. There you go. A quick paragraph. You caught my eye. I'm ready to read it. And that's it for me comic-wise. Okay, you ready? Time to flip this heavy sumbitch over. Oh, my hernia. Oh. For Brian.
Joe, go to page 31.
31. Ooh.
I never thought I would ever see an action figure of the Moon Knight in a suit. But man, the Moon Knight the suit is my favorite costume. And I've been reading Moon Knight since, what was it, Marvel Spotlight 28. But the white suit with the mask that Warren Ellis dreamed up, it was like, that is something cool. If I get down under a certain weight, I will be cosplaying as that. But there it is. There's that action figure for $24.99. It's part of the Disney Legends line.
I've really only got one thing this month that caught my eye that I thought was cool. I'm not a Pop fan. The bobblehead figures, little body, big head. I think the only one I got is the Spam Can logo. But they're doing something now that, if they keep doing it, may catch my attention. All right, you with nimble fingers. Look on page 27, 45, and 46. If you're not that nimble, I'll tell you what they're doing. They're taking a figure and they're putting a comic book. I don't think it's a real comic book, but I think it's like a backdrop behind it. On page 27 is they're doing Batman 423 McFarlane comic cover vinyl figure, which is way cool. On page 46, they're doing the same thing, but with Venom and Venom Lethal Protector #1. And they have this one that it glows in the dark. But what was really cool, back on page 45, there's a Moon Knight comic cover vinyl figure with the Marvel spotlight on the Moon Knight, which I think this is a brilliant idea. Now, the thing with this is, if I'm reading this right through this, the hard case does not open and you will not be able to remove the figure. This is basically a display type thing. So what a brilliant idea. I mean, I'm not big on pops. There's a few that caught my attention. Like I said, I got the Spam can, and I was buying them cheap to sell when we were doing the charity booth. But this is really cool. And the one that I'm looking at is the Moon Knight one, because that, I think, it may be just because I'm an old fart, but all three of these are really cool. And I'm real excited to see which ones they do in the future. More importantly, which ones will get me excited enough to actually want to get it and display it. And so far, the Moon Knight is definitely, of the three, the Moon Knight would be the one I would definitely pick up. So there you got it, 3 in 1. That's pretty much all I spotted that really got me excited this month. Anything else for Brian?
No, but here's something for everyone, and that's our sponsor. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
Oh, nice segue.
Yeah, I'm getting good at this after, 12 and a half years.
Yeah.
And after 12 and a half years, I'm still doing other podcasts like these. The Solitaire Rose Podcast Network is filled with all kinds of audio goodness. First, there's Crazy Comics and Stories. It's been going since 2010. It drops every Monday, and it has me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, and Joe Crazy Writer talking comics, shenanigans, and whatever we're freaking and geeking about. Every Monday morning. It's been going since 2010, and it's available at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. Also on that same feed is the Solitaire Rose Podcast, which is me, again, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard, doing interviews, talking about comics history, pretty much talking about whatever I want to talk about. We've also got Solo Joe, where Joe Crazy Writer does a solo podcast, and he hasn't done one in a while, so kick him in the shins to get him started. We also, on that same feed, have Solitaire Rose Series and Review, where we do DVD commentary of older comic book series. That's all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. I also do a podcast with Wolfie B. Bad at badadvice.solitairerose.com, where we take listener questions and give them bad advice. There's also Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. There's also Fantastic Forecast, where myself and Adam Vermillion are going through the entire run of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. There are always more podcasts at the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network. Be there. Aloha.
He's a podcasting machine.
We've been doing this now for 2 hours, but it's time for Joe to talk about the eBays. Joe?
We're gonna go easy again this week. I didn't talk much last week. I won't talk this week. Just know I'm still, I think I'm averaging about 5 things a day putting it on. Things are popping on, things are selling. People are asking for deals. I'm sending out deals. So I'm actually, I'm always doing it. It's on 24/7. And you as a listener got a standing offer. If you see anything you're interested in, just send me a note through eBay system saying you're interested. You listen. Hey, tell me you listen to the show, because I'll give you a much better deal than I would just someone who says, hey, will you deal on this? Not that I don't give them good deals, but I always, it's good to know somebody in the eBay world. So you know where to go. Crazy, Krayz. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show.
Bathroom break.
No, not where I chow down and eat an entire Little Caesars pizza.
Ooh.
I mean one of the little lunch pizzas.
Yeah, the $5 ones.
Yeah.
Stop and go.
Is it any good? It's hot and it's ready. But
filling.
Is it any good? It's hot
and
it's ready.
Don't. Oh.
Does it say good? No, it says hot and ready.
And ready.
No, it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Just kind of a downer. Had a couple funerals over the weekend. And, okay, let's see. Follow along with me. The first one was for my grandmother's brother's son, of which his son and daughter, I guess, would be my second cousins. And his name was Roger Sersine. Again, growing up, I would go to the cabin up in Ely that my grandfather made on Lake Burnside. And the first thing we would do is we would take the boat around to, his name was Mrixanor. Mrix was my grandmother's brother. And I always was looking for Roger's kids, Amy and Mike, because, we play together. Or when a boat came chugging into our bay, we were always like, oh, it's Amy and Mike. And I feel fortunate through Facebook that we've been able to connect and stay friends. And at the funeral for Roger, and I think he was in his 90s, so he lived a full life. It wasn't really a funeral. It was one of those celebration of lives. It was in the back of a bar, and they rented out the room. There was food, a lot of talk, a few people talking about. Apparently, Roger just was a joker. Loved a lot of jokes. Loved a lot of off-color jokes, which could explain where I get a lot of it from. I didn't know he was a Eagle Scout. I didn't know he worked so much on the swim team for the high school he was there. So it was just fun meeting up with cousins I haven't seen in a while. The very next day, a cousin of mine, 10 years older than me, Rick Ryder, he passed away. A little more sad because he had a heart valve that just wasn't doing well. He'd been in and out of the hospital, and I think he just finally got to the point where he's like, it's just got to go. It's time for him to go. He accepted it. Hard on the family. But again, re-meeting cousins that I haven't seen, swapping stories. He was a Navy Seabee. He canned stuff like crazy. He grew stuff. He recognized tractors the way you and I recognize Jack Kirby art. Definitely you, Cory. He'd be like, that came from whatever. He'd be like, hey, you recognize that tractor? And then he could tell you all about it. He was an older cousin. I remember seeing him growing up. But it was a fun celebration, a little more sad because I don't think, even though his brothers and sisters, my cousins, knew it was coming, they just didn't want to let go. But it just reminds me it was so great to reach out to see people I haven't seen in a while, people that are out of town. Again, Facebook, yeah, but this side of the family's more conservative. They probably get real tired of my liberal rants because I'm not in contact with any of them. But it was a blast to see people, to remember people, to learn things about family members I didn't know. But it made me down. I mean, I left happy, but when you get home and you process, it's sad in a way. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, I caught a cold. So just like Comic Cons, I call it. I guess I call it the funeral crowd. This is really. I haven't been out in public like this in a while, and I'm pretty sure it's just from all the handshaking, and eventually you catch. I guess colds are just coming back. I mean, I went through the whole thing. I had to, oh shit, make sure it's not COVID. So I did the home testing, but it's a cold, which is why I feel so grungy. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, I'm still recovering from the hernia, and I figured I got to get my second shingles shot done because I had chicken pox. Didn't really bother me. I had shingles. Oh yeah, that sucked. I got it when I was 48. So, and my grandma had it, and it was so painful. So I'm just like, you know what? I'll get the vaccine. It's a 2-series shot. Got to do a second one 4 to 6 months. If you're high risk, they might push it for 2. But like every vaccine, it just lays you low. My arm is sore beyond belief. I'm tired. I'm headachy. And the cold's not helping. On top of that, I'm back on my rheumatoid meds. So the flare-up I was complaining about last week is subsiding. But I'm suppressing my immune system while I took a vaccine and I'm catching a cold. Ugh. And on the sucks to be you department, no, you say that to me. By the time this airs, I will be a couple days and I'll have to go back to work. Oh, I wish I would have been born rich instead of so good looking. Cory, what you freaking on?
First off, I do want to point out artist Ken Kelly, who many people know from his 70s album covers for Kiss, but I knew him for the paintings he did for Eerie and Creepy covers. He did some Marvel covers, did a lot of paperback fantasy books, and lately I mentioned Warrant Publishing. He's painted covers for Warrant. He passed away over last week. He was related to Frank Frazetta. He was the nephew of Frank Frazetta's wife. So early in his career, he was able to study Frank Frazetta's paintings at his studio, and in the early 70s, he started working for Castle of Frankenstein magazine. He did Creepy and Eerie. He depicted Conan the Barbarian, Tarzan, Kiss, Man of War, Sleepy Hollow, Rainbow. He did the cover for Ace Frehley's solo albums. Some of the notable albums he did other than Kiss were Fighting the World, Kings of Metal, Triumph of Steel, Louder Than Hell, Gods of War, all from Man of War. Did tons and tons and tons of comic covers. And Joe, do you have your Micronauts?
Somewhere.
He painted all of the paintings on the packaging were by him.
Oh, fun.
I did not know that. Passed away at, he was born in 46. So he painted for 50 years, mostly sword and sorcery and heroic fantasy subgenres. Now, Joe, I don't know if you've gotten Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man #2. But on
I did, yeah.
Okay. Can you tell the people what the cover is?
The one I got had Mary Jane cross with Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
And nowhere in that comic does Mary Jane appear.
No.
And it really pointed out something to me that every so often they will have a cover that has absolutely nothing in the world to do with what's inside the comic. Now, I don't mind if it's kind of a generic pinup or or something like that. But if it depicts something or has a character on the cover who's not in the book, I get really irritated. And this one really bugged me because of the cliffhanger ending they have for Spider-Man #1, where we find out that during the 6 months between the last issue of Spider-Man and Spider-Man #1, not only have they broke up, but she's moved in with someone who has kids. So I saw this cover and I thought, oh, they're going to move that story forward a little bit. Nope, it was all, she wasn't in it at all. They didn't move that story forward in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And the last thing I am freaking on, this is the season of injuries in wrestling, it seems. CM Punk just won the title on last Wednesday on Dynamite. He broke his foot, it sounds like, and he's going to need surgery, so he's out for a while. Cody Rhodes over in WWE has a torn pectoral muscle. He's out. Bryan Danielson messed up his leg. He's out. Adam Cole has an undisclosed injury. He's out. And on and on. So many people are out this summer.
Who's going to step up?
John Cena? No, he's just showing
yeah,
up for one episode of Raw, where he'll be, he'll come out, he'll talk to the crowd, and then he'll go back to the movie set where he makes a lot more money.
Yeah.
So, the one match that they've announced for AEW fighting with New Japan, which was CM Punk versus Takahashi. Yep, that one's gone.
Gone.
So we don't know what's going to be happening at Forbidden Door, but it doesn't matter because it's sold out anyway. Joe, what are you geeking on?
I'm going to have fun in the next couple of days because while I recover from my vaccine shot, new episodes of Orville dropped. I should say new episode. And again, fandom's being whiny little bitch boys, but I don't want to pay attention to that. I did watch the first 4 episodes of Stranger Things. My wife and I are going to save the last 3 to watch on the weekend. I'm digging it. Again, whiny little fanboys don't like it. Obi-Wan, of course, drops tomorrow. Star Trek Strange New Worlds drops on Thursday. I'm still on Discovery Season 3. I got to the one where they get to finally meet to the Federation. My daughter said, Daddy, watching The Boys Season 3? I didn't watch Season 2 yet. So I've got a lot of catch-up to do here. I don't know when I'm going to have time to listen to the new Def Leppard CD, Diamond Star Halos. I went and got the Target version, which has 17 songs on it, whereas the regular one has 15. So, and it was really confusing because everything at Target has the little sticker. This is the exclusive version with 2 extra songs, but for some reason they didn't slap that sticker on the Def Leppard CD. So I didn't buy it for the 2 weeks I kept, or whatever, I saw it in the store until I finally got fed up with it and said, it's on sale. They say this is it. And then I looked online and I go, oh, this is it. Because it's got 2 extra versions. And for my price, I want the 2 extra versions. Might not listen to it or care. You would think with all that, I wouldn't have the time to read comics. Well, I did. As I mentioned, I finished War of the Realms. Felt like I'd been through a war. Everything, when I line up my comics in box day, I take them out and I make a couple different piles. First one is oh my God, I must read, because that means it ended up on such a cliffhanger last month. I just got to catch it. Then I set up a bunch of the #1s that I try to at least read the first issue, because what I want to do is try to talk about it here on this Dare podcast. And then I have a pile of ones that are mini-series or some that I'm so far behind I'm going to have to put them together and read them. Of that, the only 2 that I can talk about, other than, like I said, I did read Amazing Spider-Man. I did read the aforementioned all new, all different Savage Avengers. So, again, I'm just going to enjoy the ride for what it went. A lot of different characters coming in. And Conan. That's all you need to know. I did catch into the Hulk versus Thor Banner of War, Part 1. And then I did have the Hulk and the Thor Part 2 and 3 that go into it. Oh yeah, this is going to be the mother of all fights, because they're overpowered, overjuiced, and they ain't listening to nobody. You gotta love it when they have to move the fight to a severed hand of a celestial, and in the course of the 3 issues, they destroy it. So that was kind of cool. That's pretty much it. Other than, like Cory said, the weather's really good. I've been enjoying walking outside as little I can. Mr. Strode, what's up on your end of the world? What's got you happy and geeking?
Last week on Dynamite, MJF, Michael Jacob Friedman, who's their #1 heel, has it's been public that he is in a dispute with management. He feels he should be paid more, and he came out and he cut what they call a pipe bomb promo, where he talked about how everything that's going on backstage, that he should get paid more, that the fact that they're bringing in these ex-WWE guys and promoting them over him when he's the most popular star in the promotion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Really impassioned, and it's funny how when he came out, the crowd's just booing him. Boo, you suck, we hate you. But when he mentioned that he should get paid more than the ex-WWE guys, crowd turned. They started cheering him. They started chanting for him. And at the end of the promo, he went to the camera and he called the owner a effing mark and asked him to fire me. Fire me, you effing mark. And they cut his mic, with a beep, and then went black. And then didn't mention him at all on the rest of the show. They've removed him from the roster, from all of the promotional stuff they do, et cetera, et cetera. Now, here's the thing that I like. We don't know how much of it is real and how much is not, because, of course, they would not let him go out there. Their first show in Los Angeles, because it's in Los Angeles, they had the new ownership of Discovery Warner Brothers there. They're not going to give him a live mic if it's not planned. However, I happen to know some insider stuff.
Ooh.
And he may have crossed a couple lines with his promo. He may have said some things that were not approved. He may have gone too far. And the thing is, what I like best about it is nobody knows. No matter what story goes on in wrestling, somebody spills to Mike Johnson or one of the other wrestling news websites. Nobody knows what's going on except for MJF and Tony Khan. And one person I know told me Tony Khan might not even know what's going on. And the other thing about MJF is he always stays in character. He's a student of wrestling. He wants to be the modern Roddy Piper. That's why when he does signings, he's rude to the people he's signing for. He flips them off in their pictures, even if they're little kids. Doesn't care. He's always in character. And his parents are in character too, because whenever they're near him and they go to the shows, they have signs that say, "We hate MJF too." So I love the fact that I don't know what's going on. Any entertainment that can surprise me makes me happy, makes me excited, makes me want to know what's coming next. Next thing I am geeking on, I'm still reading my Free Comic Book Day books. These are so much fun. A lot of these are people putting out either the first issue or they're putting their best foot forward, trying to get you to read their books. And I just love these books. They're so much fun. They're so interesting. They're so well put together. I have complaints here and there that I talked about last week, but they all get me excited about reading comics for the summer. Speaking of reading comics for the summer, because the weather has turned nice, I have been able to sit on my deck and read comics. And that is one of the things that I really enjoy about this time of year. I don't like it when it's in the 90s and you get your shirt just gets soaked with sweat and the mosquitoes are all around. Nope, I have a citronella candle. I light it up. I take my phone, hook it to the Bluetooth speaker, listen to some Underground Garage from Sirius XM, and I read me my comics while drinking a frosty beverage. And last night at the group home, a couple of the clients wanted to go outside. I sat outside with the clients. We played cards. There was one who, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to go outside. And rather than argue with her, I just said, okay, but we're going to go outside anyway. If you want to come out and join us, that's cool. But if not, that's okay. Of course, she came out like 3 minutes later. But it's nice to be able to get outside and enjoy the outside. It feels like winter lasted forever this year. And I actually looked, and from October to May, the weather was terrible for just being outside and enjoying the outside. So, and the last thing I am geeking on, Joe, I am reading The Astonishing Tales, the 70s series, which was a split book for the first 8 or 9 issues between Kazar and Dr. Doom. Kazar, first 2 stories, written and drawn by Jack Kirby. Kirby left, they brought on Barry Windsor Smith. Then we got Herb Trimpe. On the Dr. Doom, we got 4 issues of Wally Wood. Wally Wood drawing Dr. Doom. Oh, it's so good. Then George Tuska took over. But then thankfully Gene Colan took over after him. And that is prime Gene Colan stuff, where it's Dr. Doom versus Black Panther. Ooh. And what I love about this book is that it encapsulates 70s Marvel so well in that, Kirby left and they were like, oh my God, what can we do? Barry Windsor Smith, he draws like Kirby, have him take over. So Barry Windsor Smith is on it, and he starts by doing his best Kirby impression, which is what he was known for at the time. But he was also drawing Conan. So his Conan style starts seeping into Kazar. And in the letters page, the issue before Wally Wood leaves, the letters page is, Wally Wood is so happy to be doing Dr. Doom. He's told us he's going to stay on the book long term, blah, blah, blah. Next issue, well, Wally got an offer to do Call the Destroyer. So he's left Dr. Doom. Well, what about Barry Windsor Smith? Barry Windsor Smith, he's juggling Conan and Kazar, but he says he's able to keep up with both. Next issue, Herb Trimpe's drawn it. Barry Windsor Smith had to drop the book because he's working on the Conan book. Took too much of his time. They had no idea who was doing what issue to issue, and it's the chaos of Marvel in the 70s. At the time, as a kid, I would get so annoyed when it was, oh, Gene Colan draws this book. Wait, Bob Brown's drawing the book. Wait, Don Heck's drawing the book. Wait. Now I look back on it with more knowledge of what's going on, and it has to be like, holy shit, who can we get to draw this? Who's around the office today? And it leads to just such wonderful, weird chaos. And that's why the Bronze Age Marvel is always going to be my soft spot. I love comics now. I think comics now are better than they've ever been. I think the Vertigo line of the 90s was so good. So many great comics through all these periods. But man, I will never, ever be able to give up my love for Bronze Age Marvel. Believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books for, I'm going to check here, because it's 2.5 hours. My throat hurts. And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
I'm surprised you didn't talk about when Chuck Norris and Superman and their arm wrestling contest. Loser had to wear his underwear above his pants. it was either that or, what is Gordon Ramsay's favorite wrestling show? It's fucking Raw! Hit my music.
Turn camera.
Mark.
102, take one.
With overlap, action please. Action Orson, please.
Just do anything?
No, sorry, cut. Yeah, rolling.
102, take two.
Ah, the French champagne has always been celebrated for its excellence. There is a California champagne by Paul Masson, inspired by that same French excellence. It's fermented in the bottle, and like the best French champagne, it's vintage dated. So Paul Masson.
102, take three.
Action please.
Ah, the French champagne has always been celebrated